branded your own cryptocurrency. The coin's values actually surged recently after you announced that top holders would be invited to have dinner.
I don't even know that. What did it surge to?
What did it surge to?
Yeah, what's it worth? You might as well tell me, because I have no idea.
Well, it surged. It surged. I will find it. Hold on one second. 5.2 or 58%. So 58%.
To what number?
That's not bad. 14.32.
What? Billion?
No, dollars per cryptocurrency.
$1 billion?
No.
What's the number? I mean, what is the amount?
The meme coin's value hit a peak of 75.35 on January 19th.
But that doesn't mean anything.
And that's before your inauguration, and then it surged.
Look, I'm in favor of crypto.
Let me just ask you, what do you say to those who argue that when they hear that, they worry you're profiting from the presidency?
I'm not profiting from anything. All I'm doing is, I started this long before the election. I want crypto. I think crypto is important because if we don't do it, China's going to. Mm-hmm.
Humorous exchange with the president to open this video, but it's no laughing matter. Crypto regulations that should be shoo-ins are turning highly political. We have a stablecoin bill that should be passed, a market infrastructure bill. You had some state bills that passed and are now being vetoed for political reasons, just because the president has a close proximity to the crypto industry. It is so important that we push these bills across the finish line, because you can't assume that the future will be the same environment we find ourselves now. We need to have clarity and certainty, and only getting, regulations actually passed will give us that for the long term. We're going to look at some stories here today. Before we get into that, we had this summary of a Forbes article. It says Ripple offered $5 billion for Circle, but here's why this really matters. And it kind of shows you where this industry is going and where Ripple's mind is here. Ripple wasn't just making noise when it tried to buy Circle USDC. It was making a power move to dominate the global stablecoin market and do so quickly. I think that's the key there. Ripple's RLUSD is off to a solid start, $319 million, but Circle right now sits at $61.7 billion. Ripple wants to scale fast. They're showing you right there. They're willing to pay for scale. And the $5 billion offer, that was a shortcut to, really stablecoin supremacy. No one would be even close if they close. And they still may close that deal too, by the way. Also, there's some other deals they could do that might be equally as good or maybe even better. We'll look at one that I kind of showed people yesterday. Right now, why would they accept this? Well, Ripple brings a lot of regulatory experience. They know what they're doing here. They have the licensures. They have the global footprint already. 90% of Ripple's business is outside the U.S. That's really where Coinbase wants to go. That's where Circle wants to go. They really want to compete specifically with Tether overseas. Ripple already knows what they're doing there. And the combo, well, it really could have birthed the next generation of TradFi DeFi rails. It still could. Or Ripple can scale RLUSD on its own right and save the $5 billion. Or a third possibility is another partnership that may be, again, just as good. Why did Circle say no? Well, $5 billion to them felt cheap. They feel they can get that valuation if they do, go public, if they do an IPO. We will see, though. I think they would have already done it by now if they could get it. I think they're in scary times where the market's going to look at them and say, every single cent of your income is based on those interest rates. And we don't know when, but we know they will start coming down in a significant way. And they may stay there for a long time. That's going to impact Circle's earning potential. They don't have much diversification here in terms of their income they can make. Also, regulatory heat. This is a merger of giants, of course, within the space. Could bring global scrutiny. Never know. Ripple wants its own infrastructure, not just to compete. Understand that. They don't want to be just kind of okay, just kind of good. No, they want to dominate. Circle thinks they can do it on their own. Two different paths, same war. Stablecoins will define the future of global money. Who do you think gets there first, gets to scale, Circle or Ripple? Let me know down below. Which one of those do you think will have the better stablecoin business when it's all said and done? Now, I'm not going to go over this in depth. The video's on Patreon, but I kind of just mocked up a deal for the same amount of money. And again, we're kind of guessing a little bit because these are private companies, but Probably if you went with Paxos and MoneyGram, you could get both of those for about the same price as Circle. What's interesting is with Paxos, you also get that PayPal partnership there, which is in some ways a competing stablecoin, but also you may get access to a lot of PayPal's infrastructure with something like that. You get a global cash network that turns on-chain dollars into money in minutes. You can go to any one of the MoneyGram locations, physical locations, and cash out your online value and actually get cash in hand. And they have some history there, of course. But if they own MoneyGram outright and not just a little partnership, that would be wildly different. They could do whatever they wanted. And a diversified, regulatory friendly stablecoin strategy that scales without antitrust headaches. So if you went this route, well, you can't say this is some sort of antitrust thing because you have PayPal, you have Ripple and RLUSD. You're not just taking the whole market for yourself. So it's not just these two. There's a lot of different deals you could pair together that give you optionality as we go forward. I look for Ripple to do something big, though. I don't think they're just going to say, well, we couldn't get Circle. I guess, golly shucks, we're just going to give up. Oh, no. There's going to be some big deals. The one I like, and I don't know how much they're worth, I would love to see them buy Kraken. And I know they've shied away from exchanges in the past, but look, Circle, they have that partnership with Coinbase, right? And so I think if Ripple had a partnership with a major exchange, that would be huge because now you have that, on and off ramp there. I know they said in the past they don't want to compete with customers, but I think Kraken could be a big one as well. We'll see. XRP, their ETF, having a lot of success. Now, again, this is a futures ETF and it's a leverage ETF. So not something you typically will use to invest, but more, betting on short-term fluctuations of the market here. It's sitting at, after only 4 weeks, 67 million under management. Pretty good for something like this. It's a 2x long XRP ETF. I think it's showing there's some interest there. And if we get a spot ETF, hey, it could be really big here. Now, XXRP, which is the leverage ETF, futures ETF, it's up 26% since launch, but XRP itself is only up 16%. What gives here? How could this be performing better? Well, this ETF comes with a 1.89% fee. So that's the other thing. It's a very high fee for this type of product. Institutions are paying a premium to gain leverage exposure to XRP. 9 more XRP ETFs are pending for approval, spot ETFs. That's what's important. JP Morgan expects $8 billion in inflows within 12 months of launch. Now, that's more than we've seen from Ethereum so far. The era of institutional XRP may just be beginning. And again, when you look at the Ripple stuff, that's about using the blockchain, making payments, doing transactions on chain, custody, all that, kind of using blockchain as a tool. All this stuff is like the investment side of it. And both are really important and play together. That liquidity, whether it's from an investor or whether it's from a user of blockchain, it all spends just the same. Now, there was a little bit of drama in the community here. We see this, Clint, we tried to do a transaction and Salmon tried to charge us a 10,000 XRP fee. Patrick L. Riley says this is why Salmon and Wheatsy needs to go. This is beyond unacceptable. This looks like a targeted attack. Look, you can go after a lot of people. I disagree sometimes with kind of minor things with what they do over there with the Salmon wallet. But, there's no more important independent developer than Wind. Like, he is the space there. He's done so much great work. And this is some BS, what he's trying to pitch here. Think if he left, what wallet would you use? Like, he is what we have right now. And we need more people like him. Definitely not a minus win, I can tell you that. David Schwartz coming in saying, look, there's no mystery here. It was just a weird edge case. And the code was not designed to handle has been fixed now. David saying, look, there's no conspiracy. They're not attacking your little stupid company here that no one cares about. It's just, again, an edge case. And Wynn said, look, if that had happened and we had been paid a 10,000 XRP fee, we would have just refunded it to you. This is ridiculous. This kind of stuff happens in blockchain. Again, they ain't going to keep that kind of money. But you can't question Wynn's ethics. That's one thing I can tell you. And anyone out there, David Schwartz will tell you the same. You name it. He's as good as they get. And he's doing great work in this ecosystem. Crypto Eddie said the following. holders are beginning to realize XRP's use case has changed because of stablecoins, EVM, new technology. And I saw this Saul guy go after her, and this Billion says, Saul's pointing out that your post promotes flare and creates skepticism around the original use case for XRP. Nothing has changed or evolved. And this is what's really interesting about this. If you look what's going on right now, it's changing radically. But it's pivoting back to the original vision. If you go back and listen to Chris Larson videos, the OG ones, I'd love to just sit back and listen to him talk. What's going on right now is what he was describing. Using the XRP ledger as this exchange of value for things like stable coins, Bitcoin itself, gold, everything. That was kind of the key component. XRP really was second on that list. That doesn't mean it's not valuable or even more valuable, but it was first and foremost this global exchange for you to be able to throw all sorts of value in there and do your transactions. And that's what's happening. They're making the XRP ledger is this global hub. And I think that's more close to the OG vision, not the vision we got from 2018 for a little while there beyond, maybe 2020. And I think what happened, listen, XRP went from 0.6 of a cent, and in that type of valuation, it was doing $400,000 a day in global volume. Yeah, you're like, that's kind of secondary. Look at all this cool stuff we can do. And when that price went up like a rocket, all our focus went just on XRP. But that's not how you build the most valuable XRP. Being able to do great things with the ledger, use it to its highest potential. And that's what we see going on right now. And I think that will then reflect back to that XRP price, and you will see it go up. You've seen other blockchains do this, smart contract blockchains, where they have hundreds of assets on Ethereum that are all compelling and useful and valuable. And that hasn't hurt the ETH token price, right? We've seen Ethereum kind of hold on to that number 2 spot. Even though it's going through a rough patch, it's worth quite a lot. It's because of all that network activity. We're going to get that on the XRP ledger as we build out this hub. And I think we will actually see this blockchain reach its original vision. It's really pivoted twice. Once from, this global exchange of value of all kinds to just XRP. And I was told by a lot of devs, ignore the DEX, ignore issued assets, ignore stable coins. It's just about XRP. And now they've realized, no, that original vision was right. That original vision was best. And so she's absolutely right. We are going through a transitionary period. It's not a negative. It's actually really positive. There's a lot of valuable building going on. And that's what really matters here. We see the following. I've been hearing that certain people want to stop the stablecoin bill because World Liberty Fi actually has a stablecoin project of its own. So, of course, that's the president's investment arm in crypto. We want to get this, stablecoin bill across the finish line, and he has ownership in one himself. He's also heard that, President Trump, may have interest in real estate. Maybe we just ban that whole industry as well. Like, this is silly. This is not a political issue. Enough of the politics. Let's focus on what's right for a change past the stablecoin now. I absolutely agree here. We see Senate Democrats flip on stablecoin bill jeopardizing crypto milestone. In a shocking reversal, 9 Senate Democrats, some of who previously backed the GOP-led stablecoin bill, now say they won't vote for it. We need 7 Democrats to pass this thing, and this was seen as bipartisan. We want regulated financial rails. Why would you hold this up? This is nonsense. But they point out deepening Trump ties to the crypto industry, including a planned stablecoin spark conflicts of interest, fears, all this kind of stuff. This bill was supposed to be a crypto bipartisan breakthrough. Now it's a political grenade. Look, I hope this thing gets done. It's very important. You can't argue that having unregulated markets is better. This is silly. Just get this freaking thing across the finish line. And for those people that are roadblocks and stand in the way, it's not going to go well for you because you got Ripple money out there paying for the midterms, pro-crypto candidates. You have, Coinbase, Circle, and all your U.S. heavyweights. They're going to fund the opposition, and it's not going to be funny. You want to jump on board and promote what's right, promote innovation. Blackrock, $2.7 billion BUIDL fund. Tokenized Treasuries, really, really compelling product they got there. It's now 92% deployed on Ethereum. Now, it's not the only chain, but it has the bulk of it. Solana stablecoin right now is at $13 billion. Stablecoins in totality hold about 0.5% of all U.S. debt right now, and they would rank the 16th largest holder above most nations. This isn't just adoption. This is restructuring of the financial system in real time. And really interesting. You see a lot of people going that tokenized treasury route, and I think it's going to be really popular, and you're going to see more of that in the XRP ledger as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if when everything's said and done, if we see Blackrock mint their BUIDL on the XRP ledger as well. Governor Hobbs vetoed Arizona's Bitcoin reserve bill because it's too untested for the state's retirement system. Now, they're not talking about taking state money and investing it in Bitcoin. They were talking about, much like the federal is doing, taking seized Bitcoin, throwing it in the pension fund. Like, there's no downside. There's no risk here, but it's become political, and that's what we see happening. Current fact, Arizona's pension fund is only 76% funded, ranked 36th in the nation. Perhaps the tested investment strategy ain't working. Like, we need new approaches here, new financial systems. And turning this into some political squabble is nonsense. EU to ban anonymous cryptocurrencies and privacy tokens by 2027. Really like privacy coins, but they haven't been great investments, of course, because exchanges are leery, big investors are leery of them. I guess you can't totally ban it because, well, it's a privacy currency. You don't know who has it. Good luck catching me. Lastly, I want to end with this interview about the trade talks between the U.S. and China. And I really like this individual from Forbes because his outlook is so mature. He's like, don't get involved in this whole who's blinking first thing. Both sides want to talk. Both sides need a deal here, so forget that. And he's very optimistic that real trade talks between the two nations will start soon, imminently. Let's hear what he has to say here. I thought it was a really mature approach.
Waiting for this for a long time. I think the statement that the Ministry of Commerce is evaluating really means that, first of all, there's a go-ahead from the very top of the leadership in China. And second, in my view, they're preparing for the negotiation. Who's going to lead the negotiation? What will be the strategy? What is the bottom line? How to deal with Washington? All these things are currently probably being intensely debated and discussed right now. In any case, I can't imagine an evaluation leading eventually to a decline to negotiate. That's just not going to happen in my view. So I think it's very, very good news. We've been waiting for a long time.
And that's a good point. What he's saying is he doesn't see things, going the other way. Like, oh no, now it's got worse. They're not going to talk. Like, this thing is barreling forward. They're going to get a deal done. And probably because, those tariffs on both sides are too high. They're unsustainable. Something has to be done. And it probably will.
So, Professor David here, do you think talks are imminent then? And when I say imminent, should we expect official talks, to be more specific, official talks to begin this month?
Well, I think the Ministry of Commerce statement is talking about the official talk. I think I won't, say it's imminent. I think it's very close. The second paragraph of the statement still says there are a couple of things that Washington should do to facilitate this negotiation. But I think overall, it's not very clear whether these things are the preconditions for the talk or something that Washington should bring along into the talk. I hope for the latter case, but in my view, it's very close, if not imminent.
John, just before we head deeper into this topic, I want to just take a listen to some of the comments that we've had from Marco Rubio on the...
And this is the other thing. Of course, both sides, are going to be very strong, and we will dictate the policy and all this kind of stuff. It's all, showmanship. It's all trying to show that you have the power, if not to the other side, at least to your own people or your own voters. You're getting this from both sides. Doesn't really matter. What we know is these high of tariffs are not sustainable. I'm not saying they're not going to be higher than they were. I'm not saying this isn't going to be a change. And we won't see a shakeup of the global supply chain over time for sure. But when we talk about where we are today, going into the future, it cannot stay where it is. And lastly, I'll tell you this. We don't need to see a finished deal. The minute there's a de-escalation, if they're talking, they start bringing those tariff rates down, markets are going to love it. and we should see, really crypto respond positively.
The potential for these talks between China and the US. Let's just take a quick listen.
Can we reach some sort of short-term accommodation with them? That's what they want. I mean, the Chinese are reaching out. They want to meet. They want to talk.
John, I want to pick up on Rubio's comments there. What you make of the US willingness to engage in discussion. What is it that's going to be actually palatable for Beijing as an opening gambit for discussions with the US? And just following on, if we can as well, we have, of course, seen Mike Walsh step down, effectively going to be replaced in the interim by Marco Rubio in that role of national security advisor. So I wonder what you make, what it means for China to see Rubio playing this different role now in the Trump administration.
Well, first of all, let me say that what Marco Rubio said is not necessarily in conflict with what the Ministry of Commerce here in China says. This thing is sort of, happening on both sides, eventually leading to the culmination of the negotiation. Obviously, both sides are talking to their respective audience. If you look at the statement from Ministry of Commerce here, it clearly indicates that it's Washington is sort of saying we should talk. As a matter of fact, President Trump said that too, right? So I wouldn't pay too much attention to this question about who is actually asking first. Obviously, both are asking for negotiation. It doesn't make any sense to argue about who is initiating this contact first. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think regarding your second part.
And that's the thing. You'll hear the news talk about, well, who's the one that's blinking or who wants to talk? They both want to talk. Let's be honest. I think it's kind of clear what the U.S. wants to offer and what China's going to want. China's going to want all those chips, right? They're going to want the top-end NVIDIA chips. And we went ahead and took away those here recently, those specialty chips built just for the Chinese market. We probably want to, just give them back what they just had here recently. And I don't think that's going to be a bargaining chip. Something we just took away a month ago. They're going to want some restrictions on those chip bans, and that's important. Look, that's about your business, your global economy. That is your military. That's everything. And I'm not saying they can't make their own chips, but we can't even make our own chips. It's all made in Taiwan. They find their way to get them, but if they could bring those costs down a lot too, because they can just buy them direct. It's a big deal. So I look for a lot there. The U.S. is going to want to not relax that too much. China will want everything, right? And we'll see kind of where it lands. But I think we know this eventually ends. That was one of the advantages to going these ridiculously high tariffs so quickly, because it just can't last that long. At least in my opinion. Let me know what you think down below. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.